For this assignment, I want you to just basically take the previous assignment, which was the circles assignment, and then give it a little bit of animation, if you will. So, whereas before on the previous assignment, I had you graph a window full of circles of different colors. Now I want you to do the same, but I want you to draw them in what I'm going to call a snake-like fashion. So, in this case, now we're seeing the circles being drawn, and there's a pattern as to how they're drawn. Whereas before we didn't necessarily care. Now we are going to implement this. So if I run this, notice what this looks like. So you have your circles there. Notice that it's like a snake pattern. So you go to the right and then come down and then go to the left, and you're snaking all the way down. When I mentioned this in class, the circles were all black. I've just implemented the change color function here to make sure that the circles are random colors. And then what's going to happen is as it gets to the end there, it will terminate. Your code will terminate. And there it is. So that's the implementation I'm looking for. There's specific changes that you need to make to your code from the previous assignment to get it to do this right here. So now let me show you some of the code that you can kind of start yourself with and go from there. Well, let me see here for a minute. Trying to find the controls. Yeah, clearly they're not here. So let's forget about that. Okay, so this is what is not fun. Found them. Okay, so the implementation is not unlike the previous implementation. There's just key changes. The first thing is that you have your change color function, which I have not implemented on here, but I've discussed in class before, and this would be the third time, I believe, possibly the fourth time that you have to implement this function. So you implement the change color function, so you define it, and then you use it appropriately. Notice that I actually made a change here, which is I basically, instead of putting ball color here, which was like a middle variable, I just said whatever three colors that are returned to me by change color, the function, I'm just gonna put them here in the draw circle command. So now I've saved myself a variable, a line of code where I'm creating that ball color variable and updating it and so on and so forth. So change color should return 3 random numbers, and those 3 random numbers are going to be used to make the color for the circle. There's also a key change here, which is this clock object is now back. On the previous assignment, my mouse is just all over the place. On the previous assignment, this clock object was not necessary. The clock object lets you speed things up or slow them down. The while loop, if you didn't have this this clock, the tick command here, if I took that off, the while loop executes at the processing speed of your computer, which is, I mean, it's a very high frequency, a very high rate. And so if we don't slow that processing power or the processing speed of the computer, if we don't slow it down, we don't have the ability to see the circles being drawn. And so that's what the tick lets us slow down the application, if you will. Now, the bigger the tick number, the faster that you're going to be executing the loop, each iteration. So the smaller, the slower it is. This comes again from the previous implementation. So all this from the previous implementation. Delta X is how much you're moving sideways, so twice the radius. Your job then is, after this update command, you need to then write the necessary commands here to, if you're moving to the right, which I haven't coded here, but if you're moving to the right, when you hit the right edge of the screen, you want to start moving to the left, and you want to basically start on the next row of circles. And so that's the implementation I'm going to have you work on. Notice that it does require a little bit of thinking, but that's the point here, to give yourself a little bit of a challenge and implement the code such that it reproduces the motion of these circles in a snake-like fashion, and draws circles of random colors. So that's the goal. This is the code you can use to get yourself started, with the understanding that there's some code that's missing, specifically in the while loop. There's code missing here that you need to write in here to get these circles to move. Right now, the way I have it, only one circle is going to be drawn on the top left corner, just one.